Welcome back to Real Community Talks, where we meet with micro-level influencers doing macro-level things. I didn't mess it up. For those who've been watching the episode, I changed the beginning just because I was saying a run-on sentence for the past 14 episodes, but hopefully it's a little better. I'm your host, Matt De Silva, and on today's episode, we have one of RCT's biggest, most clutch supporters, my good friend, and I don't want to butcher your name, so you're going to say the proper pronunciation.
Amelia Torres.
There you go. I know her as Emily. Emily, thanks for being on the show today.
No problem.
So for those two-ways people who don't know who you are, Emily is are you ready for this? A child and youth worker who is currently working with Vita Center and Malton Neighbourhood Services. She completed her child and youth care worker diploma from Humber College, is a freelance makeup artist, is the founder and page administrator of the blog A Crown of Beauty. She is an event coordinator, volunteer coordinator, and service coordinator with the popular GTA young adults collective known as The Mob, aka Members of the Body, which unifies believers through citywide events, fellowships, services, and more. And among many other skills and experiences, she's a social media influencer, a content creator, a makeup artist, an event host / coordinator, an active volunteer through her church, and lastly, she's the most clutch Starbucks plug I know. Was that accurate?
Yeah, it was.
So before we get into it, I have something a bit controversial to ask you.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on Sephora now selling MAC in their stores come fall 2018?
Gosh. You know, honestly.
My sister gave me the question.
Yeah, she did. No, it was a good question. Honestly, I don't see why MAC needs to have their own stores now. Like, what's the point?
They're not relevant?
They're not relevant. Like, you take, if you look at other brands that are sold at Sephora, nobody's going to the Urban Decay store at Square One. Everyone's going to Sephora, you know?
So what I didn't get is, what if MAC sells Sephora? Is that just like...
The thing is that Sephora has their own brand, but they're really like the umbrella that holds all these beauty brands that are like, that are high end or luxury. So it's like you can go get like Yves Saint Laurent and like I guess now MAC and Urban Decay all in the same place, right? Like so they're kind of like the shoppers, but like they're their own story.
So does MAC only sell MAC products?
MAC only sells
MAC
MAC
that makes
products.
sense. So like Sephora's like the distributor. I see.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I guess they kind of gave them some run for their money, right? If this is so controversial.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was like there's a lot of brands that are being sold at Sephora, and
for sure.
And MAC was just like at this point, if you can't beat it, join it.
Yeah, for those people who don't know behind the scenes, my sister is like a huge makeup artist, and then like when her and Emily met, they're like, oh my god, what was the palette you got?
The Norvina palette.
Oh my gosh! So for those makeup people, they got the Norvina palette. I don't know what it's called. Anyways, on to the real stuff. So for those who don't know you, what's your origin story? So who is Emily and where are you from?
Okay, so I'm Amelia. Initially from Toronto. I grew up in Rexdale. Really just over the bridge from Malton. Malton was like the area you don't go to.
Yeah. That's surprising because you're in Rexdale, but
yeah, you know, like I literally my elementary school was like right over the bridge.
Yeah.
But you look at the bridge and you're like, you know, it's like in Lion King when they say like that's the Shadowlands, you must not go there. That's what Malton was for us. But yeah, I grew up in Rexdale with my single mom and two sisters, and you know, that we just lived our life. I mean, eventually, you know, I went to Humber. Got my child and youth work when I finally realized what I wanted to do with my life. Don't think I really knew what I was doing when I went there, but I just knew that I had a heart for people. So and that's kind of where a lot of the stuff that I do stems from anyways. Yeah.
So what was that light bulb moment where like, did you just go to child and youth work? I mean, sometimes people, we were talking a bit about it before, is sometimes people pursue a program, you know, they sensationalize something. They look at TV and they're like, I want to be a lawyer. Like I wanted to be a lawyer because, you know, I watch lawyer shows. But was it something that wasn't more of like a sensationalization, or were you like, where was that light bulb moment where you're like, I know I want to pursue child and youth work? So
I knew that I had a heart for people, and I knew that I wanted to help people. Like I went through a lot of challenges growing up that I didn't feel like I had somebody that was there to be that support for me. And then in high school, I saw some really whack CYWs. I'm not going to shout it out because I'm not going to say what school I went to. But you know, some situations came up because some youth workers didn't know how to practice confidentiality.
Okay.
And other students found out stuff about other students. And I mean, like,
wow,
in
really?
Rexdale, it was just like, wow out. Like, it didn't go so well. Yeah. So I just remember looking at that, like, if the person that you can confide in isn't even a safe space to confide, you know, there's something not right here. So I kind of just fell into it. Like, I had to pick something. I never thought I was going to go to post-secondary school. I'm like sitting there in grade 11 when you have to pick the schools you want to apply for, and I was like, I don't even want to go to post-secondary. Like, I'm not going to do well. I didn't do well in high school, so what was the point, you know? So I just kind of was like, you know what, I got to do something. My mom's not letting me not go to school. So I just kind of fell in, and honestly, the second I got there, I loved it, and I realized this is really what I want to do. Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy because a common thread or theme that's throughout this show in terms of like origin story is a lot of our guests have grown up, a majority of the guests have grown up in a single parent home. And I'm not saying that you have to like have lived in the hood, got shot, or like something to qualify to you to be a good youth worker. Because I mean, there's youth workers like we say in the hood and Malton and Rexdale. There's youth workers that are still needed in places that are more like established in, you know, better areas. But I feel like, let me know if you agree with this, but like those experiences, as crappy as they were, kind of better prepared you to serve people. No?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I was watching a sermon last night from John Gray, and he was talking to a group of youth, and he said that their generation is one of the most distracted generations of all time. So being a youth worker, how do we communicate messages or counsel youth in a way that grabs their attention? Because they're always in their phone. It's like a highlight reel generation. They look at a 10-second video. If they're not interested, they're out. So how do you get their attention or kind of speak to them?
I think the number one thing I would say is like, be genuine. Be you. Not everybody's going to be able to help everyone. But
that's a fact.
Right? But there are youth that need what you have to offer. And so the day that I realized like I'm not gonna help everybody, but there are people that want to hear me, I decided, you know, I'm just gonna be genuine and meet youth where they're at. True. Like if you were a youth and you were going through some challenges, like, yo, like I'm not ready to give up the whole life. Like I'm not ready for that. So it's really just like meeting them where they're at, being genuine and loving them. And just kind of like helping them to encourage them to meet their fullest potential, not what you think that they're supposed to be. I think because it's so true. Like what you said is meeting them where they're at. I think I've seen this commercial once where there's like a bunch of kids lined up, and you know they had the label of what people labeled them. You know, like hyper or bad behavior or you know all this kind of stuff, and then like it was actually showing what's actually going on at home. Like, you know, you got the abusive parent, you know, you got, you know, food not coming on the table. Right. So it's like, we look at people and we judge them for the action and we label them like, you're this type of person, but we have no idea what's going on in the background. Right. So I think like exactly with me and you both being youth workers is being conscious of that. Right. Because like, we never really know the extent of what people are going through. And I mean, I know it's cliche, but it's like, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, right? So I mean, like if you look at your circumstances as a young person, I mean, just your ability to help youth, like you would have wanted someone to not look at you for who you were. And that's the thing. So people look at you where you are instead of seeing your potential where you're gonna be, right? So I think that's key. So I want to do something a little different, sort of kind of like live in the life of a CYW session. So pretend I'm a youth client, and I come up to you saying, you know, my parents are cheesing me and I want to leave home. What would you say to a youth like me? I normally will ask questions. So my thing is like, okay, so like what are you feeling? Like where are you at? Find out, like, ask questions. Because I think the first thing is people want to tell you what you should do. No, don't leave. No, no, it's fine. It'll get better. Oh my goodness. If I have to hear somebody say it'll get better one more time, nobody wants to hear it's going to get better, right? Like, because sometimes you can't see past that moment. So it's getting them to like really de-escalate. Like if especially if they're like, it's like hot, fresh. Like I just got here. My mom and I were like in this big fight. Like I don't even want to go back there today. Like looking at the positives, like, okay, so what good things do you have there? What do you like about about where you're at, you know, because we focus a lot on the negatives. And one of the biggest things is like people don't realize, but people love you.
Yeah.
You know, like we focus a lot sometimes on like what the deficiency is. What don't I have? What isn't my parent giving me, or my partner, or my sister, my brother, like what are you doing wrong, and how are you not meeting me, giving me what I need?
Yeah.
But I think if we focus more on like, like people love, but they love in their own way. You know, so just because love languages, I come clutch with love languages. I talk about it with my moms, because I run groups with young moms. I talk about it with my moms. I talk about it with everybody. Like, you know, even my friends, my partner, I'm like, okay, let's take this test because I want to know where you're at. Because I think we get really selfish sometimes. Yeah. And we don't even recognize like, we all receive love and give love in different ways. Yeah. So it's like, maybe you don't feel like okay, like, my mom's cheesing me, she's yelling at me about the dishes and whatever, but maybe her love language is acts of service. So it's like, if she needs you to do the dishes, so she feels like you actually respect her and you care about her, you love her, like, sounds like do the dishes. Mine too. You know, like, do the dishes. Because if I don't know if it's an official thing when you become a mom, but like they love to cook for you, they love to do that kind of stuff. It's like, so maybe her love language is acts of service, and you're not doing that, right?
I know, because a lot of youth, and I mean myself included, you see correction as like, you know, it's just like for personality like me, like I want to be seen like I know everything and I'm a step ahead. But it's like, you know, taking that correction, it's true, it's love, right? I mean, there's two sides of the coin, like you said. Maybe that youth is not evaluating that as love, but then I guess also on the parents' end too is like, maybe you need to understand how they experience that, and like. We may intend to do something, but it may not look always like that.
Exactly.
Right? So what inspired you? We talked a bit about, you know, you starting a Crown of Beauty. Yeah. So what inspired you to get serious about that blog?
You know, honestly, like the truth is, it's like God put that on my heart a long time ago. And I kind of tried to fight it for a little while. Yeah. You know, like the area that I was often most like, shut down for was like, I'm loud, I'm extra. Like people are always like, oh, you know, no one really wants to talk to that girl because you know, she's just talking. And I became really insecure about it for a long time. And then it's just kind of like it fell in everything that I was doing. I'm always talking. Yeah. Like every time somebody has an issue, who do they come to? Me. Like you want to talk something through, or you want to hear a different perspective, or you know, I just found myself like often talking or preaching to people. Like it's just like, this is where I'm at. And I realized like this is a gift that God gave me. And so it was attacked for a very long time, because it's obviously not, you know, anybody who's against that is going to want to suppress those God-given gifts, right? Yeah. So just naturally, like I got really insecure about them for a long time, and then I found it, and I was like, man, I just want to like I just want to figure out how to do this. Like I don't have other talents. Like I don't play an instrument. I don't sing. Like can't really dance. I'm like, I know I catch a beat, but like I can't really, you know, I can't do a full choreo. Like but like talking was my thing, and I took the easy way out, and I started blogging, like writing, and and I had to reframe that. But it was like, you see, everybody's doing something, and I was like, man, like I have all of this in my hand, like these gifts that God has given me. And I think of like the staff in Moses' hand, like what's in your hand? What are you doing with it? And I realized like I wasn't doing nothing with it. And so I just, you know, a lot of people wanted to hear what I had to say, and I was like, I don't have the time to talk to like 20 young women I also mentor. So like I don't have time to like to do it, though how much I love to. Like I'll stay up late and I'm in the middle of the night answering phone calls if I have to, but like but it's just like, how do I find a place to put out all of what I'm feeling, and all of the things that I feel like God is putting in my heart. And so and so kind of came Kind of Beauty, like you know, just recognizing that like I was a mess before God came and found me. And so just really trying to reach out to people and say like, it's okay. Like it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be a work in progress. Like we're always a work in progress. and just kind of wanted to find a space to put all of that. Really,
I feel like, I don't know about you, but for me, and I've noticed something like, and I'm not saying this for you, but for like some other people, it's like, for me, I got out of a bad relationship, and then it's like, why does everyone, when they come out of a bad relationship, you get super woke, you get all quotesy, your Instagram timeline goes from like personal pictures to like these horrible backgrounds and like Jesus, who doesn't even probably look like what Jesus looked like in real life.
Absolutely not.
Like you holding a lamp. I don't know. But yeah, that was me, and it's like you start really focusing. I think it was an identity piece for me, because back then I put my identity in who I was with instead of who I am, and like. I think, I've been someone who's been single for about 2-3 years now, and I'm just learning to just like love myself, take care of myself. Like you're like, it's just like you're a ship, you got to take care of, you got to be a well-oiled machine, right? Got to take care of myself. I got to have, self-care time. Like even you on vacation now, you took your self-care time, right? Like, so I didn't realize that. So, but then it's like, then I finally allowed God to kind of just, download what he's always been wanting to tell me. He's been telling me, but I haven't been receiving it. So then it's like, well, someone needs to hear this, and it's like so that's why I started Faith Through It All. But I seen that with you, because you were doing the videos, you were doing the quotes, and then when I seen you when you made the step to the blog, I'm like, that's perfect, because it's like what I said in episode 1. It's like it could be mobile counseling. Like we do stuff with youth, and we do stuff one-on-one, but imagine you put up a blog and 500 people read that. Maybe like 100 might be like a bot account, whatever, but even if there was like 20 or 300 or whatever, it was worth it, right? They may never have read something like that, and we don't know like what God uses in a moment. Like we don't see the background, we don't see this behind the scenes, right? So I think that's awesome. So and I think I really like the fact that you based it off of Isaiah 61:3. So like, so was writing also like a therapy, like therapeutic for you in terms of like what you were going through in your life at the time when you started?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely I did something really similar to Faith Through It All. I also run a group on Facebook called GTA Christians Young Adult Fellowship. It's really, really long.
Oh, I forgot about that. My bad.
Nah, it's good. I forgot to write it, but it was a project that it was the path that God put me on. So I also got out of a relationship, and I was like I realized like I just want to give my life to God. Like I just want, like I was always kind of on the line, and I think I kind of told God, I'm like, I'll give you all of me. Like I just need you to tell me what to do. And he was like, oh yeah, true. Like relationship cut off. Like he was telling me for a really long time to stop that relationship. It was quite a few years. So like I kind of, I didn't listen, but, so I started GTA Christians, and it was like a daily devotional. And so it was, I'd read a verse, or God would lead me to something. I'd spend some time with God in prayer, and he would lead me to some verse or, a story in the Bible, just a word. And then he would just begin to download things on my heart. Like I would see it in a whole new way. And it was like the first time, like I really became like one with the Holy Spirit. Like it was like the first time that I really began to like hear, like I had always heard God's voice, but it was like the time where he was like, instead of telling you like, put this down, he was the first time he was trusting something in my hand.
Wow.
And so that kind of just grew like gradually. It was like over a year, every single day. It was like discipline. It was like you study, you spend time with God, you read, and you post. And it like, I remember it hit 10 members, and like I cried my eyes out. Like I was like 10 people. Oh God. Wow.
That's true.
And now it's at like a little over 200.
Wow.
So thanks. But it's all God, like when like I really was able to see that things would that people were being impacted behind the scenes. People were showing me, like people were sending me messages. People who wouldn't like or comment, they were sending me messages in the back, and they were like, man, this really like, wow, like this really helped me on my walk with God. And I was like, when I realized that, it was like, okay, so through the time of like growing through that year, it was like me saying like, my relationship with God is actually impacting people. And I was thinking, like, I want to impact generations. Like, I don't want this to just be something that I do for a year and then, and then it just kind of falls off. And so it did become therapeutic for me to write, because it was me spending time with God and then pouring back out everything that was poured into me. So, so then they kind of got longer, and I've done like a lot of like audio, like little podcasts. Like if you listen, I have, nobody can look at those ones, the voice notes on my phone, but just like really God working through some issues within me, through like audio, video, and writing.
Yeah.
And so it really was like, it was an outlet for me. And then I realized it was a way for other people to experience God and experience God in a new way and in an authentic, genuine way. Like he's a real God. He's alive. Facts. He's not just, he's not just like this being in the sky, like the spirit lives within you. So it's like, it was more than that. And so then I kind of started writing and I had a rough experience. I had an experience with depression and that was probably like coming out of that was like, look, there's nobody that's going to go through the same stuff that I've been going through. I don't want anybody to experience these feelings and not have and not be able to get on their own. So that's kind of where the blog itself actually came from, was me saying like, this, I was a mess. Like, here are my ashes. Like this, Crown of Beauty. The whole point of Crown of Beauty is like, God took my ashes and made them something beautiful. And that's really what he did with me for the blog.
So one thing that you said was, you talked about how when you had, this passion to put out content, you're in your word, you're writing content down with God. God was downloading content. One thing that I kind of ran into with Faith Through It All is I experienced the same thing. Like, if it kind of forced you to be in your word, because you're like, it started with 10 and then it started with like 50 and then like I grew my following up to about 2,000 people and I'm like, wow, I have a ministry. I mean, there's different sides of the coin, but like I said, I won't go on a tangent. There's social media is like a double-edged sword, right? But it can kind of get you to feel like you're important, you're special. Like, I'm this social media, so I went to like a spoken word thing with Joseph Solomon. Propaganda was there. A bunch of people were there. And I asked Prop I like the question before, I'm like, so I run a quotes page, right? And I was actually, it took humility for me to deal with this, because I kind of got a little personal, like after I kind of got offended, and I'm like, so I have these 2,000 followers, I'm doing this quotes page. What would you suggest to someone, who's like, shepherding people through a page like this? And he's like, I don't believe that shepherding can happen online. And I'm like, he's like, if you want to be discipled by me, you got to come with me in person and spend time with me. People will reach out to me, be like, I want to be discipled by you. But he's like, well, are you going to come all the way to California? So I get what he was saying. I'm like, okay. And some people were laughing, and I'm just like, I didn't want to be that guy. Right. But I get what he was saying. And I kind of got to this point where I was putting out content for the sake of, getting the engagement, getting the likes, getting all that kind of stuff. And I felt nice. Like, oh man, God is putting word in me and I got to share it. Right. So like, how do you counteract that and balance that and try to not focus on you and just try to get out God's word when you do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely had a moment like that. So I feel
yeah.
I think it was like, I just tried to remind myself, like, it's not about me. Like, it's not about me. And it's not easy sometimes, like, to get in the moment. You're just like, oh, it felt nice. Like, I think I went somewhere in Brampton and like a pastor knew about the GTA Christians.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
And you feel nice, right?
Felt
Like,
kind of nice. I was like, what? Like
OJ messaged me and he's like, you're the Faith Through It All guy. You were at the Lecrae concert. I didn't even know. And I'm like, oh wow. I'm relevant out here. Right?
Yeah. It's like, oh, if you feel nice, you're like, but like, but I think I had to remember either like, I'm going to humble myself or the fall might be really hard. Right. Because nobody's above that. Like, nobody's above, experiencing like a drop, like all of a sudden, like, you have 2,000 followers, but one day all those 2,000 followers could unsubscribe. Like, that's true. And if they unsubscribe, like, what are you doing? So I think I just kind of decided, like, this is about God, and whoever it's meant to reach is gonna reach. If it's 2, if it's 10, if it's 2,000, if it's 20,000, like, if there's a day where I have a mic and a stage, then there's a day I have a mic and a stage. And if but if I'm still here pouring into people on this level, like, it's not less, like, it's not worth less, it's not less valuable, because people's lives are being impacted. People need that. People, like, there's some, people are in a tough situation, or maybe they're just beginning their walk with Christ, and they're like, man, this is something that's consistent. This shows me how to be disciplined, how to be consistent.
That's true.
And so, like, it's just like, there's value in it, but it's not about me. It's about God, and it's about how he wants to touch the lives of the people that are reading my posts, right? So, you know,
that's interesting what you just said. It kind of hit me too. And it's like, it's not just about the content. It's about someone might just be looking at your consistency alone and be like, wow, that inspires me. Wow. I didn't think about that. That's a good perspective. So before we move on, you're actually going to be rebranding, no?
Yeah.
So talk a bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, so it did start with Crown of Beauty.
Yeah.
You know, I think for me, it was like, God has put this on my heart. God has put this on my heart. Now what do I do with it? And I feel like though it was a complete blessing and I learned a lot creating a website and doing a blog and the discipline, the work that it took to do it, it just wasn't like I don't think it was all of what God wanted to do. I think like I said earlier, I kind of took the easy way out a little bit. Blogging instead of vlogging, like talking on video makes me really uncomfortable, but I really believe that that's a direction that God wants me to go in as well.
She's doing fine, guys.
But I'm just naturally a talker, so it's like really the second I really think about it, I'm like, whatever. Like I'm meant to be on camera. No.
You're in your zone. You're in your element.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't doing. That God had put on my heart, and I honestly, like, I just felt pressured. Like I felt pressured and I rushed to do something and put something out before I felt like I got all of what God wanted it to be. And so though, like, it's great because I learned, I tried some stuff, and now I know what I want and what I don't want. I think, like, in a sense, like being ready to do the walk in the fullness of what God has for me. So I am rebranding, working on a real website. I don't want to talk smack about my last website. Yo, it just didn't feel like a real website. Like, but I look back on it, I'm like, I hate this.
But it's hard. Like, people don't realize the behind the scenes of like what goes into actually putting out that content. Like, you think it's so easy, but like that's why like my podcast is on a website that does it for me. It's plug and play because I can't deal with that.
Yeah, no. I want to shout out people like people who do websites, social media managers. You're needed. Graphic designers, because like trying to do that all on my own, I'm like, oh my goodness.
You can only watch so many YouTube videos.
You know,
right?
I've watched so many YouTube videos. But yeah, so I'm definitely rebranding, working on a new website and my YouTube channel. Actually, awesome. So it's all to come soon. All
right, so when that finally drops, we'll drop it in the description, or we'll promote it. She always promotes, like, she has like 2-3 accounts, and she's like always liking it. So I'm like, she's like Matt, when I drop it, you know, I'm like, of course I'm gonna support. So something I always, speaking of, you know, you plugging and all this kind of stuff, I always see you plugging the mob, right? The mob. So for those listeners or viewers who don't know about the mob, what is the mob and what's the purpose behind it?
Okay, so the mob, we just wanted to be super cool and call it the mob. But mob stands for members of the body. So, you know, the Bible talks a lot about unifying the body, and that everyone plays a role. So just because, you know, you do one thing doesn't make you less important than another. But it's really like coming together. And one thing was like the whole point of it is finding like all the young adults across the GTA and surrounding areas that love God, that love Jesus, and like we're trying to just live for him, and we're out there. Like we are out there. There are tons of young people that just want to live for Christ. And I don't know about you, but like young adults ministries, like I haven't seen a lot of them. Like not a lot of churches have them. I know my church is working on that, but like it's usually an area that kind of falls. It's like, okay, the high schoolers, and then like adults and like married ministries, and we're just kind of like, hey, we're chilling here. How do we stay in the church? Like, how do we have fun and not conform to this world, and not compromise our values by, you know, like we have to be in the club where there's alcohol and music. Not that I'm saying like you can't be around that, you know, but like you don't have to be if you don't want to. There's other stuff to do on like Fridays and Saturdays, and so the mob is really just like we just have a heart to serve ministries and then bring young adults together. So we do kind of events across the GTA, just like worship nights and like networking games, like just come and meet other young adults that love Jesus and just want to chill and have fun. And so like we've thrown like parties, like some really cool
dope. I've seen some of this stuff.
Some really cool parties and stuff like that are all just like, it's all Christ centered. you know, for the most part, it's Christian music. Like, we're just out here having like.
I know some like normal people will be like that, like that's a Christian party, or like that's a Christian event, right? And I'm like, I like what Lecrae says. He's like, people always say I'm a Christian artist. He's like, of course I'm Christian, but he's like, I'm a hip hop artist, and I happen to talk about God in some of my songs. Some songs he doesn't. He just talks about just his walk, whatever, right? But it's like they think like people think we have to like be singing Kumbaya all the time, or like we're like this cult and it's all crazy. But like I like that because it's like you guys have the mentality that you could be righteous, but you could also be ratchet. But you could also be who you are, right? Instead of, you know, because I feel like when the Bible talks about having community, and we go to church and we kind of supplement that for a Sunday morning service, and we might sit beside someone, but we may never know them. Like we say that's our community, but like we don't know what's going on. Like sometimes I find stuff about people, like they're telling me, I'll be like, I had no idea, or I had no idea that you've been helping this person get to church every Sunday by, you know, buying them a Presto card or all this kind of stuff, right? So I feel like collectives like the Mob, and one I also follow is like the Hub, you know, they're so needed because there's this other preacher, his name is I think Fody Bokum, and he was talking about age graded ministries, right? And how the church separates people instead of bringing them up together. And I get that. Like there's definitely times where you need to seek counsel and because sometimes you become who you're around, right? And if you're just seeing young people, you're not going to be becoming the person that you might want to be 20 years from now, right? But also, it's like sometimes we just need to like kick it with people our own age. Like sometimes you have youth and young adults where it's like we can't talk about the same things. We're developmentally different, right?
We're in different places.
I think places like things like the Mob are so needed. And ones that are cool, like they're dope. They don't have to be so boring. You know what I mean?
And I think another thing I forgot to mention is that we're all from different churches. Like we're all from different churches. I mean, across.
I rarely see people doing that.
People don't.
They're
do
so
that.
inward.
And I think like we get caught up in like the church is like a building, but we are the church.
Facts.
Like when Jesus is coming back, he's coming back for the church, like us.
Facts,
you know. So it's like if we are the church, then we should be doing stuff within our own communities and connecting with people in different communities, and just saying like we just have a heart for Christ, and we want to do fun stuff, and we're dope. And one of my really good friends is a DJ, and it's like he's here mixing like I don't know the most random stuff together, but like it's super dope. And we're having fun. We're not just here like kumbaya.
For sure. No, I definitely appreciate that movement you guys have going on. So, you know, you're someone who strives to see young people, especially women, you know, firm in their identity and walking in purpose. You know, kind of what we talked a bit about before is, you know, with the influence of social media on the lives of young people, you know, living in a like a highlight reel generation. Like, how do we counteract that to encourage them to walk in purpose?
I think the very first step of that is like identity. Like, who are you? And like that's kind of the place I always start is like God loves you, and like God looks at you as his daughter. So it's like if you're a daughter of the King, then like you have to start walking like that. Like you have to start walking in authority, you know, like you have to choose. It's not easy, but like surround yourself with women who are going to be firm in who they are and not bend to the opinions of this world. And when you start to know who you are, you value yourself. You set up certain boundaries and standards for how people should treat you. And that's just kind of like where my heart comes from. Is that is like, let's work from the place of like, first, who are you? And we all have challenges. Like we all struggle, and we've you know, I talked to a lot of women, and a lot of challenges, like been in a really bad relationship. We've been there. And so the stories, we're not so different. We're not so different that we can't love each other and like kind of talk through some of the stuff. And so just kind of like recognizing like, who are we, where are we at, and then where do we want to go? You know? Because
one of the things you were talking about in your prelim is having those hard conversations that most people don't want to do, because like sometimes we can get caught up in this idea of trying to say what we think people want to hear. And even in ministry, like, you know, we can be super motivational, and instead of, you know, there's moments where we need conviction, where there's moments where we need to, and then there's also moments where we just need to talk about the reality of things. Like, instead of buttering it up or, you know, sugarcoating it, like, this is life, this is going to happen. But now that you know it, you can be prepared for it, right? So like something that you touched on a little bit about was that, you know, you went through like some depression. So would you mind talking a bit about like what that was through, and then like kind of how you got out of that?
So I don't even know how it came out. It just happened. I think like one of the biggest things for me is like I'm a Christian and I'm a youth worker. So it's like, wait a second, I'm eating less or eating more. I'm sleeping less. I'm sleeping more. Like something's not right. I don't feel right. I feel kind of numb. Like I'm realizing like I'm staying in my bed all day. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want, and it was, I think like that added an extra layer for me. So, just like some experiences in life that you kind of go through and things hit hard, and, it can be relationships. It can be relationships with friends, with family, with, a partner and an ex-partner. You go through situations that can hit you hard. Right. And I think for me, it was like the situation hit me hard, but it was more the guilt that came after. Yeah. And I was like, man, you're a Christian. You should know better. You should treat people better. You should do this better. You should have done that better. You should have known. And that guilt, that shame, that kind of like just kind of perpetuated for me. And it was like I heard it in my head all like over and over and over and over again. And I was just like, man, like God, can you help your girl out? Can you just get me out of this? And so I just kind of like, for a while, like I'm just trying to stay afloat. Like I'm telling everybody I'm okay. Right. Like, and that was, I think probably the biggest challenge for a long time was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm okay. But the reality was I just needed to actually accept God's forgiveness and like sit in God's grace and in his love. Yeah. And it just took me a while to actually be willing to do that. Yeah. Right.
Or just believe it. Like I was talking with one of my brothers from church, and he was we're he's the youth leader, and then I kind of I support him, and I work as one of the youth leaders as well. And like, I don't know, and sometimes we look for like that light bulb moment, or like that, the clouds opening moment where we're just gonna feel it. But sometimes it's like you said, it's a process, right? But I don't know, for this one reason, we were, we keep each other accountable, and I was talking to him about something. He came up to me, and we were praying over the youth who was at one of the conventions, and I just like, I felt like like when you have, your chains lifted off kind of moment. Yeah. But like, and people think it's like a one-time thing, but sometimes chains keep coming back, right? So, he was talking to me, and he's like, God told me to tell you that you're good, like you're all right. And I've heard that before, but that one time that I heard it, it's like I physically felt that chain fall off, right? And it's like sometimes you need to be reminded of that, and sometimes like it's okay to like acknowledge that you're going through something. Like we think that we have to be perfect, or that we have like, or like I didn't read my Bible, like, oh, I'm not forsaking that, but what I'm saying is sometimes we get into this whole thing of like works-based, and it's like, well, I read my Bible all week this week, so I'm good, and I gave to the poor this week, boom, 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 boom. But it's like in reality it doesn't happen, right? But like, are we gonna stay down there? Yeah. Or are we gonna get up and still walk in spite of that? And I think that's where I am at my life right now. Is I'm learning to, even if I don't, because feelings they deceive you, right? Yeah. And if we based our actions off of how we felt, we wouldn't do a lot of things, right? And I'm learning that I may be struggling in a certain area. I may not have conquered something over here, but am I just going to stay there? I'm going to continue to do God's work, right? Because we oftentimes, a lot of youth, and this is what I experience even in the churches, they're like, well, I don't feel close to God. God's always right there with you. Are you going to let him in the house, right? Kind of thing, right? But it's like, he's going to be there with you in your mess. I'm not saying don't worry about that to the point where you don't address it. Yeah. But instead of just like wallowing it, like, I don't know. It's like, when you've been taught a certain way that you have to look and act right. But I'm just like, I'm so unconventional right now where I am with God, because I'm like, people can tell me things, but it's like, it's different than what you actually experience and what God is telling you in your personal relationship, right? I
think that's why I love David. That's why I love David. So like, David was really jacked
Psalms 51.
all of that. So he was just like so jacked up, David. Yeah. I felt that.
Shout out Mike Todd.
Yo, shout out to Mike Todd.
The only reason I came out to Mike Todd is you posted that story about relationship goals. Like I was actually watching a sermon the other day, and he's like, some girl posted a clip on Twitter and it went viral. And it's like, and not that we're working for a viral type of ministry, but it's like, imagine that, like you do that in consistency and boom, God blesses your ministry.
It's that unconventional what you're talking about. But that's why I love David, because like he was messed up, like jacked up. Man was sleeping with somebody else's wife, like totally tried to kill the man, or got the man killed. Like he was pretty messed up, you know. But God still called him a man after his very own heart. And I think the thing is like, you can be a mess and God still loves you. Like nothing can separate you from the love of God. And so because nothing can separate you from the love of God, like I think sometimes we get to this place where we're like, oh, I don't even want to like step into his presence, right? Like you feel guilty, you feel ashamed or whatever. Like I don't even like, I'm not even worthy to step in front of God. And you might not feel that way. And the truth is maybe you're not worthy, but you became worthy 2,000 years ago when Jesus came and died on a cross for you.
Facts.
But you became worthy. You know what I mean? Like you might not feel like you're worthy, and really like as you might not be, but the Holy Spirit that rose Jesus from the dead lives in you. And so it's like that idea of like, no matter what you've done, you are not too far from God, like too far for God.
True.
Like you are never too far for somebody to come and get you. And I think during that season for me, that was what I learned. And I'm glad that I experienced it. Like I just in mentoring other people and stuff like that, like I realized like I went through that so I can help support people out, and really just so that in the end, like I know that nobody is ever too far from receiving God's grace, and I have to like, I want to grace everybody, because if God forgave me and graced me, who am I to not do that for someone else, you know? So true.
So one of your favorite quotes is "Perfect love expels all fear." So what does that quote mean to you personally?
I think for me, it was just like, I can struggle a lot with fear. Like, you know, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? I'm fear of failing. I have a fear of succeeding. Like Adrian said, like super huge, right? Like, I don't know which one scares me more sometimes. But just in general, like, I realized like it was just kind of like a season where I was like just like, I'm not going to do anything. Like if I do something and I misstep, or if God, I thought I heard your voice and I didn't do the right thing. I was just like fear. And then I remember reading a verse that was, they just said like, we are not fearful slaves. And I was like, yeah, man, like God didn't give me the spirit of fear. So why am I chilling here in it? And then like that one day I was just in that place, and like that just like jumped out at me. And it was like, perfect love expels all fear. Well, if God is love and he has my back, and like the goal here on this earth is for me to love God, love myself, and love others. If I just keep loving, like, you know, like if I'm just always in a place of love, fear can't live there. Fear cannot live in a place where I'm, you know, I'm like, nah, I love me. I know who I am. I'm the daughter of the king. I'm a daughter of the king. And like, nah, I'm just gonna chase him, and I'm just gonna love God. And as I sat in that place of like loving God, loving myself, and then just like everybody I meet, like how can I extend love? Doesn't matter what, you know, doesn't matter what your religious background, who you are, like where you come from, if you're from the hood or not from the hood, you know, like it doesn't matter, because the goal is for me to love you. And so if I'm just in this place of love, like I'm realizing, you know, like you build relationships with people. Like you can't be afraid, am I going to get this or not get this? When like God sends favor before me, like I don't have to worry. Like I don't have to worry. Am I protected? No, it's fine. I'm fine. God's got me. And so it was just really that, like that love that stems from God, and whether it's God's love for me, or, you know, the love that I have in me for him and other people. It's just like fear can't live there. One thing that you said, like, in terms of like fearing success and fearing failure, is sometimes we want like the audible voice of God saying, go here, do this, here's your blueprint, blah blah blah. And for me is like, I used to stress, I'll be like, you know, I'll be like, God, make like a red Ferrari pass by me when I'm walking to work, and I know it's a sign. Like, you know how ridiculous we sound, like, God, you know, send me a sign.
And where I'm at in this season of my life right now, especially, you know, I'll do a video. I keep telling you guys I'm going to do a video, but, you know, I'm going to be leaving my full-time job soon, and just as God's leading me. And even in that, sometimes I'm like, you know, something will come up, but sometimes we think it's a thing, but it could be a false like sign. It could be, you know, like the enemy trying to deceive you. Yeah. But then it's like, I'll be honest, in this season, like I'm praying about it. I feel for me, it's like, I kind of gauge it by like, I feel a peace. But there's that element where God's like, yeah, but you have to just act and walk and trust it and know that if you're walking in purpose, you know, it's not to say that you're going to be perfect, but that you can trust that your actions will line up and that you won't do one thing that's totally going to jeopardize. Because God will eventually fulfill his purpose and his promise in your life. Yeah. You might delay that by doing something, right? But I mean, he's always going to reroute like a GPS, you know what I mean? So for me, I'm just trusting that, you know, I also have to be confident in who I am in God, and that, you know what? I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to make this decision here. And if it's wrong, God will reroute me. If it's right, you know, he'll continue to reveal that for me, right? So
for sure.
So there's no point in asking this question, because I'm like, if any, what role has faith played in your life? But this whole podcast has been about it. So I'm going to skip straight down to the last question before we go into rapid fire. If you could go back in time, what would you tell grade 9 Emily just about to enter high school? If you could warn her, give her any advice.
Okay. I think the first thing I would tell her is you matter. God has a purpose for you. Before you were born, he put you in your mother's womb. You know, he had a plan for your life, and that like you said, it can't be shaken. And that my value is not determined by what somebody else says about me.
Facts.
I had teachers tell me I was never gonna amount to anything.
Wow.
And that's why I never believed I was gonna go to post-secondary. You know, like I was like, teachers tell me I was just a waste of space. And also not having my dad in my life, a huge thing was my value was determined by what men thought of me, or what, you know, boys really, but but what, like, I would tell myself, like, I would tell any grade 9 girl, like, your value is not determined by what a man. I think J. Cole said that, your value ain't determined by another man. But it's not. It's not, you know, like, there's a place for you in Christ, and you're here on this earth for a purpose. So, you know, walk in purpose, but find that purpose. But you're not less than the next person, or you're not what your feelings or your thoughts or what other people tell you are. If it doesn't align with the word of God, you are a masterpiece. And I mean, kind of, I love that, because kind of what I talked about too is like, sometimes it depends on how you, like we said, you express love and how much effort you put into a relationship. But like, for me, to a fault, sometimes I put too much into it, where I'm like, that's my identity. My identity used to be like, you know, good morning, babe, how are you? You know, you're this, instead of like, God's being telling me that instead of a person, because people are always going to fail you, but God won't, right? And it's so true. And then it's like I said, even learning now, like, I am, you know, I'm uniquely created for a specific purpose on this earth. And no person, you know, people sometimes don't mean well, but sometimes people will talk you out of a great idea. Right? And sometimes you just have to be comfortable in who you are. And it goes back to what you said, and something that always sticks out to me by TDJ, because he's like, God was like, if you can't be faithful with these 10 members of your church, how are you going to get a 10,000 church? For sure. Right? And don't equate your value with your numbers or your reach or your engagement, right? No. So I think it's just being confident that if you're in the center of God's will, that, you know, he's going to take you wherever you need to go. Right? For sure.
So we've reached that point in the episode where it's rapid fire. You're an RCT, like, pro, so you probably already have this memorized. I tried to change a bit up for you.
I figured, you know what, I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna think of my answers ahead of time. Like, I'm not gonna pre-plan this out, because I want this to be genuine. So I'm like, man, but I know a couple of them that are coming. I'm like,
all right, you ready for this?
Okay.
Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi.
We have different theologies. Advil or Tylenol?
None.
Okay. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Toronto or Saga?
Toronto.
Mac or Sephora?
Sephora.
Dopest YouTube makeup channel out there at the moment?
Oh, Kathleen Lights. She's my favorite.
If you had to recommend any show with multiple seasons on Netflix to someone, what's your go-to show? Mine's is The Office.
I've never taken it in before.
You have to.
I don't know if it's still on. Once Upon a Time.
Okay. What song besides Oceans that's off the table do you hear and just instantly get slain in the spirit?
Awesome. My God, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That song gets me every time.
Top 2 90s tracks of all time. It's hard.
I feel like my 90s sometimes runs with my 2000s.
Okay. Whatever.
Okay.
2000s.
No Scrubs.
Hey.
I don't want no scrubs. No Scrubs and I don't.
You gotta say it. You gotta say it.
I don't know. I'm blanking.
So Scrubs. Wait, you said 2000s, right?
I'm thinking 90s, 2000s.
All right, we'll go to the next one.
Oh,
favorite place you've traveled, local or international?
Atlanta. My favorite, absolute favorite. I'm like plotting to go there. I'm plotting to move there. Like at any chance I get, I'm like, any chance I get, I'm like, you ready? At any chance I get, I'm like.
Did you guys talk about that?
Yeah. All the time.
If you guys are wondering, we're talking we're talking to Brad over there on this side.
Yeah. Brad's awesome.
Shout out Brad.
Shout out to Brad. Supports everything I do. No, honestly, like absolute most supportive boyfriend person, like even just like in our friendship. But he's been amazing in our courtship, and I just absolutely I'm absolutely grateful for his life and just all the wisdom, like everything that God has used for him to pour into me is just like crazy ridiculous. And he supports me in everything I do. He's out here up all night helping me with my website and stuff like that. Yeah, like no, he's super dope.
Brownie points right there. Favorite book you read or are reading?
Heather Lindsey's Silent Season. Silent Seasons or Pressure Trap. Two of her books I really love, but I'm gonna say Silent Season.
Favorite song right now that you're listening to?
Man, I suck with songs.
What song do you hear on the radio now?
No. It's not a radio song. It's a KB song.
Okay.
Well, there's No Chains.
Okay.
No Chains. KB. No Chains.
I gotta get updated with my KB.
No, KB is like my favorite rapper of
really
all, like
of his all delivery is insane too.
Not just Christian hip hop, but like of all time. Honestly, like I think I'm there. It's like between him and J. Cole, but like I really feel like I'm up there with KB.
One of his realest tracks, I don't know if it's called, you know, the one where it's like suicide, like, you know, where he's talking about like that soldier who like was about to put a gun to his head. I don't know. Okay, I'll show it to you out here, but it's insane. Because I like how he tells a story, and it's almost like a movie. Who's one person that everyone should go right now and follow on Instagram or check them out? Like they could be an influencer.
It's Heather Lindsey. Heather L Love on Instagram. Honestly, like she's she runs like a women's ministry out of Atlanta. She's a pastor. Her and her husband, they pastor a church in Atlanta, and like she's just been like crucial through my growth. And I just honestly like I love her. Like shout out to her. I hope one day she catches us.
Hope she sees us.
Like,
yeah.
Heather, like no. Heather L Lindsey.
Right.
I mean Heather L Love. Sorry. Favorite
Saturday morning cartoon when you were young? I got some different ones now.
Honestly, like I had a few, but I'm say Reboot. Reboot. Yeah.
Caribbean Star, Mr. Jerk.
Caribbean Star.
Top 3 Christian artists of all time. So you said KB.
KB. I love Swoop.
I love how he's like Lecrae's piano player. Not that you can't be an artist. But I love how like Lecrae's putting his other team on the map, right?
Yeah. No, I love that.
So Swoop, KB.
These are gonna be all hip hop artists. Derek Minor.
Derek Minor. Okay,
I love Derek Minor.
Most influential person on your life. I mean, there's multiple. There could be multiple, but if you could think of one person.
Other than Jesus?
Yeah, other than Jesus.
My mom. My mom for sure.
If you go back to a single point in your life, what day would that be? If you could revisit it for one day.
It's gonna probably be one in Atlanta because I try not to go back to stuff that I don't, stuff I can't, whatever. But I went last summer to a conference in Atlanta, and honestly,
nice. What was the conference?
Amazing. It was a
Heather Lindsey. Okay.
Yeah, Pinky
Shout
Promise.
out Heather Lindsey.
Shout out Heather Lindsey again. No, it was a Pinky Promise conference, and it's just a women's conference. And honestly,
I remember seeing you post that.
Yeah.
If there was a movie on your life, what would the title read? And then I'm gonna ask you a follow.
Okay, what would the title of the movie be? Unconventional.
And if they couldn't get you to play in it, who would you want? Like a celebrity, who would you want to play you?
I need somebody funny. Do they have to look like me?
They don't have to look like you. Like you can say like someone that totally doesn't look like you. But who would capture Emily? I don't even know this one for myself. I asked it to you guys all the time.
I really don't know.
You're just gonna get yourself to play yourself.
Yeah. I'm just trying to play me. I don't think anybody is ever gonna get like the dramatic effects of how extra I am. So I think it has to be me. And honestly, I think I'm like the best actress out there anyways. So like I'm about it.
Okay. If you could have coffee with anyone from any point in history, dead or alive, who would it be? Besides Jesus.
Why does that have to be
because
I really want to meet with Jesus.
That's the Trump answer.
Anybody, absolutely anybody.
Like whose brain would you want to pick?
I don't want to be annoying. Say Heather Lindsey again.
No, Heather Lindsey. Okay. I gotta check out Heather Lindsey.
You have to check her out. I'm telling you, you have to check her out. I think she.
I'm gonna DM Heather Lindsey and be like, you need to check this episode out. Minute notations everywhere. Name a song that when you hear it, it puts you in your feelings.
Marvin's Room.
Yes. Wow. Okay. I'm not the only one.
I promise you, the very first time you asked that question, I said Marvin's Room. Then you said Marvin's Room. I was like, yes, I'm so about to know. Marvin's Room.
If you were stranded on an island, what 2 things would you want with you?
My phone. Absolutely. Because my Bible's in there. Everything's in there. I'm good. I'm good. My phone, and like, can I bring like my whole vanity, like my whole makeup collection with me?
I'm joking.
I think I can bring like, if I can bring like my whole makeup collection, I'm bringing the whole thing.
All right.
Absolutely.
What style did you rock that you look back now and wish you never rocked?
The colored like the colored like not Vans, like the Keds, like colored Keds with a colored belt and like a colored hoodie. Jeez. Like we just rocked out like pink Keds, pink belt, pink hoodie and jeans. Right. Like
everything used to be like every single piece, like from the fitted to the thing to the wristband had to match. And like,
had to all be the same color.
No character.
Yeah, no.
All right. Lastly, if your life was a book, what's the title of the current chapter of your life right now? If you could put a title to it.
I'd say growth.
Nice. All right, so you survived rapid fire.
Yes.
And it's that time of the episode where it's guest corner, so you can shout out something you got going on, and maybe kind of give our listeners and our viewers a last word of encouragement.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to shout out. Can I shout out my own Instagram?
Of course.
Okay, shout out my own Instagram. On Instagram, Amelia. There's 3 A's. T-O. I promise you, T-O is not for Toronto.
Yeah. It's
for Torres. People like look at me. They're like, "You trying to rep Toronto that hard?" I'm like, "I'm not. I don't even currently live in Toronto, but like, you know, no. You can find me on Instagram, all my website and all this stuff. All those links are coming up soon. So
we'll drop them in the description. Yeah.
You can find the Mob GTA. That's what we are right now. That might be changing, but I always plug them in my Instagram as well. So the Mob GTA. What else you can find? I don't even know what my chronology.
Well, your Facebook thing.
Yeah. You can actually on Facebook, if you're looking for a group, just a place to just fellowship and just word and videos and stuff gets thrown back and forth. It's GTA Christians Young Adults Fellowship. That's on Facebook.
That's it.
Yeah.
We'll drop everything in case you forgot anything.
Yeah, in case I forget anything.
All right, so that wraps it up for our show today. I'm gonna leave links to everything you got going on. But before we go, I'd like to give you guys a word of encouragement. And you probably already know this. It's usually a surprise to most of my guests, but she's probably watched like almost every single episode. So, one thing that I want to say is that I respect about you is how you use your authentic story as building blocks instead of baggage. And a lot of people weigh it down or they want to get rid of it, but like being a youth worker, you're almost kind of forced to, but being a youth worker, like you don't shy away from it. You're not ashamed of it. And I think that's definitely going to be useful not only in your job but in ministry and even in what you plan to do in terms of vlogging. Is we need people to be, like Mike Todd says, hot, humble, open, and transparent, right? Because people want to see real, and that's one of the reasons why I did this show, is real talks, like not sugar coated, like this is what I really feel, and people resonate with that. So I think that's something that is an asset to you in terms of your content creation in the future. I think your heart for the community and how you realize urgency around you, like doing the mob and all these other things, is you realizing that it's not just about the socialization. It's not like you really want to see people come to Christ and follow Jesus. And like you said, walk in purpose, and especially young women, because, you know, there's not a lot of female examples of females just giving their life to Christ at a young age. Like I don't have a statistic for that, but I mean, like, you don't see it often, right? Or if you see it, it's like they're almost at one extreme where, like, it's like, speaking of makeup, you ever seen like those girls who do those like how to wear Christian makeup in a modest way? I'm just like, yo, those girls kind of like, yeah, they freak me out. Like that's too extreme, right? But sometimes you need someone who's balanced, and I think you're that balanced person where you could, like we talked about, the righteous and the ratchet, like you can be who you are, but you could also like show them the way. And sometimes it's not always what you say, and even in your blogs, is how you live your life, right? And I think you're definitely an example to young females. I think your hustle, we were having this conversation with Chris that one day in the parking lot, and I'm like, you know, I have an okay paying job, and, you know, my parents have blessed me to stay at home. Yeah, don't judge me. I live in my mom's basement. Okay. But I mean, you know, I'm blessed. But I mean, like, the fact that like you were doing 2 jobs simultaneously. I don't know if you're doing any more. You know, you have your own car, you have your own place. Like, I can't say I can't see a lot of young people doing that, and, you know, being okay with themselves and still managing all these things. So that kind of kicks me in the butt to be like, okay, you got to get your stuff together and prioritize your money. So I respect you for that. I think your ability to be relevant to youth, like in the hood, and, you know, and that's transferable other places too, right? I think that's going to continue to just, you know, carry you into the next part of your life where you're going. And just, you know, like I said, not just pointing out people's sin, like they're not going to be like, you know, you're a sinner, this, like this, but be like you said, like meeting people where they are, right? Yeah. And I think that's so needed for youth workers. And I think where you've positioned God in your life amongst your talents, I think God's going to continue just to bless you and to grow what you have. Because at the core of what you're doing, like you said, is that you want to give honor to God. You have all these words, what he's giving you to, you want to bless people. And a lot of times we do it sometimes for this, but I could see that desire for you, because, you know, when everyone's posting this on IG, you're doing your stories and you're like, this is what God's been saying to me. And to be unashamed to do that, 116, to be unashamed to do that, it's rare, because everyone wants to create this facade, right? But you talk about your weaknesses on Instagram. Yeah. I don't see a lot of people talk about their weaknesses on Instagram, right? So I think that's definitely something I respect about you. So, I think that's it. I don't have any more to say, but I just wanted to sincerely thank you for being on the show today. And I just want to continue to encourage you. Like, I was talking to her earlier, and she's like, you know, when the website pops up, I'm like, no, you're doing good stuff now. And when it comes, you guys better go follow it. Make sure you're following the Instagram. Make sure you're checking out the blog. But Emily, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.